Today, everybody's talking about therapy. They're in trouble. They need therapy. The school says they're in trouble. They need therapy. Your husband needs therapy. Your sister needs therapy. Who are these therapists? How can you tell the good therapist from the bad therapist? Most therapists out there start with a very caring heart, and that's why they become therapists. But it is very important to know that bad therapy will get you nowhere fast. That's why it's important to stick around and hear the 5 points I have today to discuss bad therapy. I'm Dr. Priya Parmar. I'm a psychiatrist. I've been in practice for 25 years. Number one is that they don't listen. They just talk about themselves all the time. When a therapist doesn't listen to you, they don't remember your name. They might not remember your appointments. They don't remember the theme of your story. Why are you coming to therapy to see them? Why are you bringing yourself in? If your therapist isn't listening to you, it could be that they're anxious. But that's their problem, and it's not your problem to solve. Another reason is they're overworked. And if they're overworked, they're not going to be providing the type of insight and the type of quality of therapy that most people need. If they aren't listening to you, it can also be one of the ultimate forms of disrespect. And most people need to feel respected when they're in therapy. So here's the thing. It's very important that your therapist is a good listener. Listening in and of itself is a very healing process. When somebody who genuinely cares and has empathy listens to your pain, it can be therapeutic. So if your therapist isn't good at listening, one of the basics of therapy is missing. Number two, you just feel bad. Now, this is different than feeling bad after talking about sad stuff or something that makes you upset or trauma. You feel bad, like you're questioning, did I say the right thing? Did I offend them? Are they angry with me? You're worried about these things that your therapist is feeling. This is created by something called limbic resonance. So the limbic system is an ancient system in our brains that senses emotions. It senses emotional content of a person's face, the way they're standing. It's nonverbal. So it's incredibly sensitive. So if you're getting those signals that I don't think my therapist likes me, or I'm offending them, or I hurt them, don't ignore that. Do not ignore those signals. So the thing about limbic resonance is that feelings are contagious. And when you are finished processing something really heavy in therapy, that's sad or bad or ugly or shameful, you want to be able to feel those feelings without worrying that the person you're telling this to is judging you. It's very important to have a therapist that you feel cares about you. Another quality that is bad in therapy is neediness. You just feel like your therapist needs your validation. They need you to feel good. They need you to agree with them. They need you to get better in order to feel good about themselves. Now, okay, your therapist is there to help you stay on track, get some goals in your life, get moving, get over some conditions. However, they're not supposed to need you to do this. That needy quality can be a sign of codependence. And a codependent therapist is very difficult to work with because there's, again, because of limbic resonance, this need to prove to your therapist that you like them by doing what they say all the time, by obeying them. And that conveys a sense that your therapist is fragile and they really need you to make them feel good and build themselves up, which is the opposite direction that therapy should go. I want you to feel comfortable with your therapist, to disagree, to get angry, to challenge what they say. A good therapist will take that on and enjoy the process with you. All right, folks, we're at point number 4, and this is a little bit counterintuitive. The point is that they don't bill you. Before you start therapy, it's really important that you know the hourly rate, the cancellation policy, and how your therapist is going to bill you. The reason why is because money is very important in this value-based relationship. When you go to therapy, you're going to go in and hopefully you're going to put all of your ugly, shameful, painful stuff out there. And you want to do it without feeling you owe this therapist something. Now, just because a therapist bills you doesn't mean they don't care about you. Like I said before, most therapists go into this business because they're genuinely caring people. But for both of you, this is a value-based relationship. You want to feel like you can tell your therapist everything and you don't owe them friendship and you don't owe them this enormous debt of gratitude. All right, gratitude is wonderful. You don't want to feel overly in debt. They're doing a service and you're getting value for their service. And that requires a monetary transaction. All right, everybody, you've made it to point number 5. I just want to say, if you stick around a little longer, I'm going to add in a few bonus tips for what you can do if you can't afford therapy right now, or if you just don't have the time to do therapy right now. So thanks for staying for the 5th and final bad therapy point. Number 5. Your therapist tells you all about themselves. In therapy, it's very important that you realize it's about you, friends. Therapy is about you and what's happening in your life. Over time, you will develop a relationship with your therapist where you notice their style or you notice their mood. And they're allowed to disclose a little bit about themselves because, believe me, a little self-disclosure goes a long way. And just as people doing therapy with someone, our fantasies can run wild. You know, like when we were little kids, our fantasies run wild about our caretakers. So you want to avoid a reenactment. And an astute, caring therapist will direct the therapy back to you because you just don't want to go through all over again what you may have gone through with a very disturbing caretaker in your youth. The time is to talk about you, not about your therapist. You may have some questions for your therapist, like, what are your credentials? What is your therapeutic stance? How would you handle the situation of suicidality? These are all really important questions to ask your therapist. You should know about their credentials. So your therapist should be able to give you very clear, direct communication and answers regarding if they're a PhD, what are they a PhD in? What kind of training have they had? What kind of hours do they need in clinical supervision before they're officially licensed? That kind of stuff needs to be answered. And I think it's very fair for you to expect your therapist to be able to give you a clear answer about their education and what makes them right for you. Thanks for sticking around. Now we're nearing the end of the video. And if you found this video valuable and interesting, please subscribe. The bonus content. We're going to be talking about what to do if you don't have the time or the money to commit to therapy right now. There are a couple of options for you. Now, if you are suicidal or in a medical crisis, please stop, call 911, contact the National Suicide Hotline, or look for a therapist in your community. But if you are not in crisis and you're waiting for the right time and the right therapist, here are some things you can do in the meantime. Number 1, you could look into CODA. CODA is Codependence Anonymous. It's a group of people who get together to support each other when they're going through difficult relationship issues, saying no to loved ones, setting boundaries, and learning about the strength within. Now, CODA isn't always easy because people will confront you if you're not being truthful or being honest. So in therapy, it may come out a little slower, but in a group process, you're going to get a lot more confrontation and a lot more energy. CODA has been tremendously helpful for many people I know. And in the description box below, we're going to put in a link for CODA, Codependence Anonymous. Number 2, you could try Al-Anon. There are so many people who struggle with substance abuse disorders in America. Well, Al-Anon is for the people who love substance abuse, people who are using, people who are addicts. The people who love these people need support because their hearts break. The addict has their own issues, but the person who loves an addict needs support. And I encourage people to look into Al-Anon, and the information will be in the description box below. Number 3, tried and true, been around the block in America for decades, Alcoholics Anonymous. Don't be afraid to show up for a meeting if you're struggling with alcoholism, with binging, or with a substance abuse disorder. You can get some support and you can get some answers. Other things that aren't support groups, you could join a gym. You could work in a community garden. You could join a book club. These are all places where people get together to learn, to work on their bodies, and to uplift their lives. Until you're able to get good therapy, it may be a good holding place for you. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I want to remind you again to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.